It all began on an unassuming evening at one of Earth's most remote listening posts, where scientists spent their nights surrounded by the soft hum of machinery and the endlessly shifting tapestry of background radiation. These dedicated observers had grown accustomed to days of drudgery interspersed with fleeting moments of discovery. Yet on this particular night, as the operators quietly oversaw telescope arrays aimed at the silent infinity, something different happened. A peculiar pattern emerged in the cosmic noise, too intentional to be random. At first, the pulses were faint, mere flickers superimposed onto the quiet hiss of galactic background signals. But repeated measurements confirmed that the pulses had a distinctive structure. Their rhythms were precise, their recurrence intervals too orderly for any known natural phenomenon. A jolt of excitement spread through the facility. Coffee mugs were abandoned, half-sipped, on desks, and bleary-eyed researchers zeroed in on the data. Over subsequent days, further analysis revealed that this was far more than a simple glitch. It displayed a carefully orchestrated arrangement, reminiscent of coded transmissions known from earlier attempts at interstellar communication. The question seized everyone. Who or what was sending these signals, and why now? This curiosity soon rippled through a network of researchers worldwide. Within weeks, collaborative teams formed, sharing spectrographic data, compression algorithms, and any relevant cosmic background references. Early attempts at decoding the pulses hinted at an underlying syntax, almost like the building blocks of a lost language. Mathematicians recognized repeated occurrences of prime numbers, while linguists speculated about symbolic structures that could represent ideas or images. Further complicating the puzzle was the signal's apparent origin in a sector of space long dismissed as empty or unremarkable, an abyss that official star charts had referred to as the dead zone. For centuries, that region had generated no unusual readings and was presumed to hold no advanced civilizations. The incongruity of this new, purposeful signal emanating from such a location added a layer of mystique, prompting speculation that it might be an echo from a lost epoch. As efforts intensified, the signal began to show additional depth. Certain segments of the transmission repeated at intervals, their modulation becoming more complex every cycle, almost as if it were an unfolding narrative or instruction manual. Then came the realization. Embedded within the waveforms, there were references, mathematical constants, fragments that looked like star maps, or perhaps even stylized pictures. The more scientists investigated, the more they hypothesized that this might be a record left behind by a civilization teetering on the brink of disappearance, or worse, entirely extinct. Where mainstream media thrived on sensationalism, message from aliens found in dead space, the actual community of astronomers, cryptographers, and cosmic archaeologists confronted a more sober possibility. This might not be a greeting, but a warning, a cosmic testament to tragedy. Meanwhile, on Nova Prime, a capital world at the heart of interstellar governance, members of the Galactic Council oversaw a vast repository of archived knowledge compiled from eons of exploration, interactions, and treaties with myriad species. Officially, humanity's legacy was minimal, tucked away as footnotes in the official historical records. But hidden behind layers of encryption lay restricted files that contradicted the public story. Only a small circle of archivists and council elites knew that centuries earlier, humans had achieved a remarkable level of technological sophistication, only to vanish almost entirely from the galactic stage. This discrepancy between the sanitized official narrative and the hush-hush reality troubled some observers within the council. Yet the official stance remained firm. The humans were gone due to reasons unfit for public consumption. Some whispered about an internal meltdown, others about cosmic accidents, and yet others about an attempt to harness energies that no species should dare approach. Thanks to the heightened interest in the newly discovered signal, these hidden contradictions began to surface. A small group within the council re-examined the hush-hush data in the archives. They revealed that humanity, as it rose, had embarked on an audacious experiment near a black hole's singularity. This operation aimed to harvest colossal amounts of power, surpassing anything the known galaxy had ever witnessed. Yet it ended in disaster that birthed something called the Dread Nexus, an entity described in the Forbidden Files as a devouring wave of energy, unstoppable, conscious, and malevolent. The experiment's aftermath decimated entire systems, forcing human leaders to blot out all evidence of their species' greatest mistake. The Council had aided in covering up that fiasco, concluding that acknowledging it might spur others to replicate the same folly. In official textbooks, human civilization thus slipped into the realm of myth, a species that soared too high and paid the ultimate price, better off left out of the mainstream record, the apex of humankind's scientific renaissance. References from these secret archives spoke of sophisticated labs, hyper-advanced quantum computing, and an almost reverential faith in the ability of physics to solve any obstacle. Fueled by ambition, a group of leading scientists proposed siphoning raw energy from a black hole's swirling accretion disk. Their calculations claimed that if done correctly, tapping this cosmic furnace could fuel unstoppable starships, manipulate gravitational fields, and allow humanity to colonize the entire galaxy within just a few generations. But the risks were equally tremendous. As the project scaled up, so did warnings from minority voices who feared quantum instabilities or catastrophic chain reactions. Initially, the results thrilled all observers. Data logs mentioned stable energy extraction in limited test scenarios. But near the final demonstration, the system encountered an unforeseen resonance that twisted local space-time. Without warning, the feed from the apparatus was replaced by chaotic distortion. The black hole seemed to surge with unnatural flares, and the containment machinery collapsed, giving birth to the Dread Nexus. This was no standard cosmic force. Documents described it as having its own agenda, as though a living manifestation of chaos, radiating unstoppable destruction. Entire star systems in the experiment's reach were consumed, and soon people realized that if not contained, the entire galaxy might be threatened. Terrified human leaders then enacted a desperate measure. They erased every trace, hoping that if no one learned of the Dread Nexus's origins, the monstrous entity might remain sealed or forgotten. Humanity effectively destroyed all official records, condemning itself to vanish from the galactic stage. The few survivors or record keepers likely died in anonymity or exiled themselves to preserve their dark secret. That secret remained buried until the cosmic signal reemerged. A small band of researchers, each chasing different leads, coalesced around the idea that the signal might reference a lost human outpost. Chief among them were Dr. Kale and Nova, working at Nova Prime Scientific Complex. They dissected unlabeled starship debris and bizarre inscriptions in a defunct human language. Meanwhile, out in the frontier, Captain Orion's rogue expedition formed a ragtag crew fueled by cynicism toward the Council's official line, forging their path by tracking the transmissions with advanced scanning gear. The deeper they probed the signal's code, the more references they found to coordinates in the so-called Silent Expanse, a deserted region rumored to harbor the final echoes of defunct civilizations. As these groups closed in on the same location, neither was prepared for the shocking find that awaited them. Drifting in the vacuum was a single escape pod, remarkably intact after uncounted years, its occupant a small child with disheveled hair, wide eyes, and a battered data module clutched in her hands. How she survived in stasis so long was a puzzle in itself. That she bore recognizable human features and wore fragments of a distinctly human uniform left no room for doubt. She was the living proof that official narratives were false. After some medical care and coaxing, the child pointed to a cryptic coordinate. Pulling the data from her module, the teams deciphered references to a derelict starship or station known in rumor as Eclipse Station. Those rumors, considered improbable even by treasure hunters, described a drifting fortress laboratory rumored to hold suppressed knowledge of the final hours of humankind. Finding Eclipse Station required venturing through an unstable subspace corridor, skirting cosmic anomalies that had swallowed entire expeditions. Yet both groups felt compelled to risk everything. Days of tense navigation eventually brought them in sight of the station's silhouette, a battered monolith standing silent against the star-flecked darkness. Once they boarded, the echo of every footstep suggested centuries of disuse. Rooms littered with half-functioning computer terminals and corroded metallic scraps offered glimpses of advanced engineering overlaid by the dust of ages. Hallways ended in collapsed bulkheads. Occasional remnants of earthly culture, faded insignias, stylized posters depicting futuristic cities, spoke quietly of humankind's once audacious spirit. In the station's depths, the environment shifted from mere abandonment to something more haunted. A flicker of backup systems still glowed faintly, illuminating sealed doors behind which lay the Omega Vault, humanity's final repository of truth. Hacking the antiquated locks triggered a wave of automated defenses, but eventually, the vault cracked open, revealing row upon row of data crystals and holographic recorders. The investigators soon realized they were standing in a place where the entire saga of humankind's zenith and fall was methodically cataloged. They found logs describing the black hole experiment in stark detail. The excitement, the arrogance, the creeping dread as equations turned chaotic, and a singular moment when the Dread Nexus was unleashed. The last entries recounted an empire undone overnight. Panicked pleas for rescue, starships launching futile offensives, entire colonies blinking out like extinguished candles. Then, a final command to sterilize every record, ensuring no future civilization would replicate this monstrous fiasco. Amid these revelations, a hidden failsafe awakened, broadcasting an ancient pre-recorded warning. Red emergency lights bathed the vault in ominous flashes as an automated voice reminded them that knowledge of the Dread Nexus risked reigniting it. Despite the centuries, the threat had not disappeared. Dr. Kale insisted that truth cannot remain buried, that only by understanding past mistakes can societies avoid repeating them. Nova supported him, noting the moral imperative to let knowledge serve as a safeguard. But Captain Orion, shaped by years of adversity, recognized the practical danger. Unveiling humanity's downfall might inspire unscrupulous factions to chase black hole power anew, risking the entire galaxy. The child from the escape pod, her voice soft yet unwavering, made a simple plea. Guard the secret. Let our past remain a lesson, not a weapon. Ultimately, confronted by the real possibility that the Dread Nexus might be dormant, waiting for an impetus to break free, the investigators agreed to reseal the Omega Vault. The idea was that the truth, though discovered, must stay hidden in order to protect living civilizations from an unspeakable menace. They departed Eclipse Station, minds heavy with the monstrous burden of knowledge. Secretly, Dr. Kale archived crucial data in remote corners of Nova Prime's system, quietly tucking away fragments of code that might be retrieved if dire necessity demanded it. Captain Orion left, ironically relieved, feeling that stifling the story was safer for the galaxy's immediate stability. Upon returning, the Council reaffirmed a vow of silence, and official statements reiterated that humanity's existence was nothing but legends. The final outcomes? Academics gleaned glimpses from the rumored account, intensifying rumors that the Council had suppressed a cataclysmic chapter of history. A few rebellious scholars started forming small networks to discuss the forbidden logs. Their conversations sometimes reached the dim corners of extranet forums, stirring fleeting controversies quickly squelched by official censors. Meanwhile, the child found a quiet home among a group of sympathetic researchers who gently studied her stasis anomalies, unsure whether she would ever fully adapt to modern society or remain an otherworldly symbol of a lost lineage. In subterranean lab compartments on Nova Prime, Dr. Kale and Nova occasionally conferred with the clandestine archivists, continuing to parse the data crystals they had duplicated before relocking the vault. Those private sessions peeled back further layers of the fiasco, the precise equations behind black hole manipulation, the timeline of civilization's collapse, even the haunting moment the Dread Nexus gained a semblance of consciousness. Every new piece hammered home the same message, that advanced intelligence, untempered by humility, can unleash catastrophes beyond measure. The rest of the galaxy carried on, largely ignorant of the razor-thin line it was treading. New species joined the Council, trade alliances expanded, and entrepreneurs launched new colonial ventures in remote star systems. Echoes of the cosmic signal that started it all were overshadowed by daily matters of commerce and politics. In secret, the memory of humanity lingered, a question whispering in the quiet intervals. If one advanced civilization could vanish overnight, what guaranteed that the rest were safe? The archives gave no illusions of immortality. For some watchers, the hush was a stark moral compromise. They accepted that burying the cosmic skeleton was the lesser evil, but the moral weight was almost unbearable. For others, the suppressed truth rankled, feeding an undercurrent of distrust in the Council's paternalistic governance. Time wore on, yet the seeds of knowledge never wholly died. Students who stumbled upon out-of-place references in old Starship logs would sometimes ask, were humans truly real? Did they attempt the impossible? Mentors, knowing the official line, typically offered half answers, but the rumor mill churned. Some believed the Dread Nexus was still out there, drifting in a hidden corner of the galaxy, starved of new energy but not destroyed. Others speculated that tiny pockets of hidden human survivors might dwell in stasis pods or clandestine outposts, waiting for a day when they can re-emerge. Hence, the legacy stands at crossroads. If the overshadowed records remain locked indefinitely, perhaps the galaxy avoids the risk of another catastrophic black hole fiasco. But if the constraints weaken, or if unscrupulous powers glean partial data, the cycle could be reinitiated. The abiding tension is that ignorance and secrecy come at a cost. It strangles the chance for open dialogue about how to safely handle advanced, even cosmic, energies. Meanwhile, the possibility that knowledge might prevent some future tragedy remains overshadowed by fear that curiosity might again awaken cosmic ruin. In that sense, the saga of human extinction, concealed though it may be, resonates as a cosmic riddle. Does the path to wisdom require unveiling truths, or can certain truths be too dangerous? In the hush of starlit nights on countless worlds, that question lingers. Humanity's story, nearly lost to censorship, remains an unwritten cautionary tale. The few who know the full account cannot easily share it without risking an echo of the apocalypse. Yet, ironically, it is the darkness of that knowledge that underscores the extraordinary power advanced species hold in their grasp. Just as the pulse of a black hole compresses matter into near-infinitesimal density, so does this story compress the triumphs and failings of an entire civilization into a single example of how cosmic ambition can teeter on the knife edge of annihilation. Such is the predicament that echoes in lonely labs and hush-hush transmissions, as watchers keep an ear out for signs of the Dread Nexus stirring. Earth's once proud monuments crumble in cosmic dust. The cityscapes left to the ruin of time, but faint traces of human brilliance still flicker in the hidden corners of advanced research. Someday, perhaps a generation unborn, will glean the truth and weigh the moral imperative to reveal or conceal it. That day, the entire galaxy may watch as history either repeats or forges a safer path. If for now, all is quiet, the signal that kicked off this journey fades into cosmic background noise, overshadowed by more immediate concerns. Life continues. Planets revolve around their suns. Starships traverse known routes. And under the official narratives, humanity remains only a footnote. Or so it seems that in closing, the silence that envelopes this narrative begs one question. If the cosmos is so vast and advanced species so daring, is secrecy alone truly enough to prevent a recurrence? Possibly not. The memory of humanity's demise might eventually surface more publicly, forced by events or by the unstoppable curiosity of future explorers. On that day, the cosmic puzzle, overshadowed for centuries, might come to the foreground. Perhaps if individuals stand ready to learn from a vanished civilization's fatal miscalculation, the galaxy can carve out a future less prone to repeating that catastrophic downfall. Until then, for better or for worse, the cosmic hush holds sway, and the final story of humankind remains sealed behind vault doors, battered starships, and the fleeting radio hush of the dead zone. And those who have glimpsed the truth can only wonder how long it will be before the hidden chapter resurfaces and tests the galaxy's ability to face the darkest lessons of all.